What up, gamers? I'm Jason.
I'm Julie.
And today on Dice and Dragons, we are going to be reviewing the Goonies Coded Chronicles Escape with One-Eyed Willy's Rich Stuff. That's actually a lot more difficult to say than you would think. Very easy to get your tongue all twisted, and then you have to figure out a way to get it untwisted and solve that puzzle, which is what you're going to be doing in this game. It is based on the movie Goonies, so this is most definitely Goonies the movie put into the box as an escape room. It is published by the Op Games and designed by Cormier and Sen-Foong Lim. Hopefully I pronounced that right. Now I'm going to toss it over to Julie, who's going to tell you more about the game itself, as well as she has a little public service announcement.
I'll start off with that. So this is a review copy. We'd like to thank the Op for thinking of us and sending us this review copy, but we'll like to remind our viewers that, as always, our opinion will remain our own. So this is a cooperative game. It is for one or more players, and it's for ages 12 and above. And You always ask me what I think, so what do you think about the age?
I think the age is right because this is on the more challenging side of the Coded Chronicles games. I'm looking at the back here, and it's on the high end. I think it's on the front there of medium. So I don't think you can get away with playing it with younger players. Now, if they do like to watch the adults or the older players solve puzzles, well, I do think that they can be included, but I don't necessarily think that you can play this with younger kids.
No, I think they could probably read the book, but they might not be contributing. But, it wouldn't have hurt us to have one extra person reading the books.
No, I think you can go a little bit younger, but their level of involvement is going to depend on their interests. So what are you doing in this game? Well, we talked about it a little bit. You'll be taking on the roles of the Goonies from Mikey, Brand, Mouth, Data, Stef, Andy, Chunk, and of course, Sloth. I don't think I missed anyone at all there. That was rather impressive, I think. Can I get a round of applause? And you're going to be going through the events of the movies as you're trying to locate something to sell in order to save the Goondocks from some evil real estate developers that are forcing your parents to sell their homes and potentially have you move out of it's Astoria, but I'm forgetting the state that it's in. It's someplace on the coast. I don't know why I'm drawing a complete blank. And in order to do that, well, you find a doubloon in your attic, which leads you on the chase for One-Eyed Willy's lost treasure. You'll also encounter the Fratellis as you must try to avoid them while solving the mystery and saving the day. Did I miss anything at all?
I think you got it covered.
All right, so since we got it covered, we're now going to grab our drink, grab our best friend.
Seems appropriate in this case.
Very much so.
We're going to take it to the table one more time.
One more time. You guys are going to see the components, and then we're going to come back at you with our review. If you're wondering why it's not set up like it has been recently in other videos, it's just a little too messy with books and stuff everywhere, so didn't want to do that. Now we're going to take a look at the components for the Goonies Escape with One-Eyed Willy's Rich Stuff, a Coded Chronicles game. So we have the adventure book or rule book here. So it has a nice list of all the contents, shows you how to set up the game, and then has all the instructions with regards to how to play it. There is a reference here for any hints in case you need them. And then on the back, it's going to help you score how well you did, depending on how many times the Fratellis caught up to you and potentially stopped you from getting away with the rich stuff. Now, I'll probably move a few things off camera as we take a look at them. As you saw from the adventure guide / rulebook, there is a map. Now, the map does have a glossy finish to it, as you can see with the reflection. And the reason for that is we do have a dry erase marker, so if you need to write on it, you'll be able to do that and then clean it up for any subsequent plays. Nice thing I like is it doesn't quite close all the way, which is a little annoying with regards to storage, but it works. But this ensures that if you do take some breaks while you're playing the game, you're not going to smear your dry erase marker all over the place. You've got the infamous doubloon from the original movie, and you'll be using this to solve some of your clues. We have this intermission guide that you'll be opening up and using once you get to that point, because this game is played in 3 acts, each taking about 60 to 90 minutes. So we'll move that off to the side as well. So here we have the deck of clues. They are all numbered, and I don't want to spoil anything for anyone. We can just show you how many it goes up to. So there are 43 clues. Now, as the first clue is actually revealed already in the adventure guide, I don't mind showing it to you. It is a wrench with the number 9. So you have to combine numbers in order to be able to use them. But you get an idea as to what you're going to be finding in this deck. So different items, maybe different puzzles, and information that you need to escape with all of One-Eyed Willy's rich stuff. Now here we've got the secret envelopes, and with regards to these, you will be opening them up when the game instructs you to. Now, at the start of the game, you will have to use the doubloon to figure out which one you're going to be opening up. The reason why I'm mentioning this is because it is something that is neglected in the adventure guide, is it doesn't actually tell you how to start off the game, which we'll go over in just a moment. So you do have map tiles that are going to come into play now. There are a total of 7 map tiles, and each of them is lettered. Now, I don't want to spoil anything by showing you what's under there. There'll be locations with different numbers that you need to combine with your character's abilities. Also, one of these will contain the character's standees as well. Actually, let's just take a look at the adventure guide again, just so you have an idea as to what you can expect. I don't want to spoil anything. So you have each of these characters as standees with a different number associated to them. You can see that up top, which is also associated with their abilities. For example, Mikey can explore, and he's number 1. Now, we talked about telling you how to start off the game. Well, to do that, you're going to take Mikey's book, and you're going to read the entire first page to get yourself started, and then it has instructions as to how you're going to start your adventure. As you can see here, though, you've got, 1069, 1101. So if you're playing with Mikey and you make these combination of numbers, that's what you're going to read. So we'll just go through each book one by one. So you have Brand, who is number 2, and I love the fact that everything is very reminiscent of the 80s. Mouth as number 3. Andy is number 4. Stef is number 5. Now, Chunk is actually number 6 and 7. From the adventure guide, it does tell you that Mikey is sort of the star of Act 1, and Chunk will feature more heavily in Act 2. Same thing with Sloth, who is number 8. And then lastly, we've got Data here at number 9. So there you have it. It was just a nice quick look at the components. Now keep it right here, as Julie and I are going to be coming back at you with our review of this Coded Chronicles game. This is our second one in the series. We had fun with the first one. Hopefully we had just as much, if not more fun, with this one. So Julie, did you enjoy the Goonies Escape with One-Eyed Willy's rich stuff?
Okay, so I'm going to start off by saying that I think we came to a realization, I think it's both of us, but you can speak for yourself. I'm not a huge fan of escape room games, apparently.
And you know what? I agree with you. I think that I know that we're not the biggest fan of escape room games. We did enjoy Scooby-Doo Escape from the Haunted Mansion. We still had an issue with a few of the puzzles, but I think that the theme of Scooby-Doo and it being a completely fresh experience kind of just elevated it, brought you back to the childhood of trying to solve the mystery and being part of the Scooby Gang. So it was just a little bit more enjoyable. I think it was also probably a little bit on the easier side, which may be something that we would like more just because of when we can play games and the fact that we're playing as the two of us. Whereas we'll talk about it when we get to a review, more eyes would have been a lot more helpful than just having the two of us for this game. So what we do like to do here on Dice and Dragons is we like to review this based on who we think this is for. So I'm going to sort of step a little bit back from my personal opinions when it comes to scoring this, because if I just went with how I felt during the game and my feelings about escape room games, it probably would not be getting the best score. So I'm going to try to pretend that, you know what, I'm okay with escape room games and take a look at it from that perspective and talk about what I like. But you're going to get my full commentary. I just don't want to ding this because of us figuring out that this probably is a game and this type of game shouldn't really be in our collection.
Yeah, so you just took off with that one. So yeah, I'm going to say I've played a couple of escape room games. I've done a couple of escape rooms. I did one with work. And I keep thinking that maybe it's just the scenario that I'm in that I'm not loving, but I think after, 4 or 5 experiences, and it's roughly the same thing, I'm just going to reiterate saying that I am not the biggest fan of escape rooms. That being said, let's talk a little bit about the use of the IP in this game. So I'm going to preface this by saying that I've seen the Goonies 1.5 times. And I say half a time because the first time I tried to watch this, I was pretty pregnant. As in, I don't know how pregnant I was, but I was far enough along that it was a good excuse to sleep. And then when I did see it all the way through, I enjoyed the movie, but I don't remember every single little detail or aspect. Contrary to Jason, who...
I've seen this movie a lot. It used to be on TNT. That's when I first saw it. I grew up watching this movie when I had to move from Canada to the States for a little while. Afterwards, I still love the movie. Finally got why everyone loved it in the 80s. I got to experience it in the early 90s. So I know this IP. I'm a big fan of this IP. It is awesome.
So that being said, Jason, I think, I don't think I know because he said it, was a little frustrated at times about the fact that this is exactly the game.
It's exactly the movie. The game is the movie.
The game is the movie. To the point where apparently some of the dialogue, some of the stuff we're reading is exactly the dialogue for the movie.
Oh, it is not. Somewhat, it is exactly the dialogue. The entire first paragraph that you read to start is Mikey and the boys up in the attic looking for stuff to sell. So you start out right with a scene from the movie. There are multiple scenes from the movie that do show up that you're actually reading, and whenever you're reading it, I just had kind of the movie playing in my head. And I think that comes down to one of the problems I have with this. We have a 3 to 4.5 hour version of Goonies, or I can just watch the movie in less time.
So what I was going to say on that is there's 2 ways to look at this. You either love the IP so much that you think it's fantastic that you're immersed in the movie playing the game, or you're like Jason and it frustrates you that in your eyes glaze over because you're like, I already know this, just move it along and bring it to something else. I wasn't bothered by it because I don't know the movie well enough. It just reminded me of the movie.
Yes. So like I said, I do think that, I did not have the most fun with this because of the IP. I much prefer the use of Scooby-Doo as an IP because it was completely new and different. That being said, I think it accomplished what it wanted to do, which is turning Goonies into an escape room. It made puzzles for a lot of the different...
Just to interrupt you there, I think it's a very apropos, irrelevant to be putting this movie as an escape room because that's basically what they're doing.
Yes, I agree. It all works well together if you're going to get into the theme, or if you're not, a fan like I am that remembers the movie too well or seen it too many times that some of the stuff just kind of rolls off you and you'd rather things keep going and want to see a little bit of a new twist on Goonies. That being said, everything that is done with Chunk and Sloth up until the very end is new, and I appreciate it, and I thought that they found a great way to extend that storyline that wasn't actually in the movies into the game and have some really interesting puzzles if you like solving puzzles. Now, the other thing that is in there that I noticed, because at the end I went through some of the stuff that we didn't actually get to see, they even included the octopus, which is a famous deleted scene from Goonies that was cut from the movie with very good reasons, but there's a way for you to find it in the game if you want to go looking for it.
So the other thing I would say is that, as you say, it's the movie with puzzles. And I have a lot of friends who love puzzles. They love that aspect of escape rooms. They love doing puzzles. I don't love puzzles. So for me, a couple of times I was like, oh, this is cool. But when it was a little far-fetched or really unclear what we were supposed to be looking for, I got frustrated. And I don't enjoy being frustrated.
And here's one of the reasons why we're really saying that you probably need more eyes on this game. Because we're going through a lot of different books. We're going back and forth. And maybe we should have split up the books a little bit differently. But unfortunately, Mikey and Chunk have the heavy part of the reading. So you're going to be doing a lot of the primary interactions and sort of almost like the person managing your escape room team. Now, I'm trying to do a bunch of the other stuff, but we really didn't use Stef to the best of her ability. Her ability is explained, so whenever we were looking at something, we were kind of like scratching our head a little bit. We really should have referred to Stef, and she would have just had like a line of dialogue to help explain it. The ciphers with mouths weren't the clearest. I know that him and Stef are supposed to be working together, really to sort of make that all come into one thing. And the reason for that is if you watch the movie, they have a thing. So I would appreciate the way that they've got every character in the proper roles, and it's interesting. But a couple of times they tried to escape roomify those relationships, and I felt that with Stef it was a little bit more of a weakness. I would have rather had the information not in a completely separate book. And what frustrated me was trying to solve the puzzles for Data's gadgets. I would have much preferred just having to be like, we need to use Data's gadget in this place, in this way, and do it, rather than be like, I have to figure out how to do it. That just, I don't know, because I'm a fan of the movies, it just bothered me.
Yeah, well, and I understand why they did it. Sometimes it really wasn't clear to me what we were supposed to be doing. It seemed a little far-fetched. So,
like I said, Stef might have helped us a lot with that, and we just
and if we had more people, like you say, they might have, in this case, more eyes, more brains might have been a little bit better, seeing things from a different perspective.
But I must admit, it started out really well, like figuring out the first envelope. Like, it is so thematic to the movie now. If you know it very well, you know exactly what you're going to be doing. And it's kind of a little disappointing because you're like, this is going to happen next, this is going to happen next, this is going to happen next. And you got a pretty good idea what you're doing.
So, I mean, for me, I think that this is, if you look for the positives, this is definitely dripping in the theme. It's completely immersed in it. You are the Goonies and you're living the movie. As we pointed out, to your point, maybe a little bit too much to your liking. It definitely is very escape room-ish. So if you love escape rooms, this is probably a game for you. If you love puzzles, if you love finding ways, solving puzzles, you'll enjoy this as well. And especially if you love the Goonies, I think you'll like it even more. Now, I think I've said enough of my negatives. What did you want to add about the positives?
Well, positives are the way that it's the way that it sets up the characters and the way that it embraces the theme, as you mentioned. I thought that the interaction with the Fratellis was interesting because they can catch you a few times like they do in the films. You get away, but that's going to affect your score at the end. Compared to Scooby-Doo, I found that the hints were really well done. It lets you progress through the game. Now, I was the one that ended up finishing it just because Julie got a little bit tired of where things were going, and we just weren't enjoying it, possibly, not as much as we should have. I think not using Stef, as I mentioned, and also just the time of day that we were playing it. It just really wasn't the right setting for us to get the best experience out of the box. And I like the way that everything feels Goonies. But as Julie said, sometimes things weren't very straightforward. There were some cool puzzles towards the end in Act 3. However, the ending of it was very straightforward. It's like, do this, do this, do this, do this, almost too much. So that I'm like, these puzzles aren't all that engaging, and this is how we're ending this experience. So I found that to be disappointing, but it's very apropos because it is the movie. So the limitations as to what happens in the film are going to limit this escape room's narrative experience. And now Sloth and Chunk and some of the puzzles were very challenging, but fun to figure out. I like the fact that there's little clues on everything, and if you're looking for them, you will find them. But compared to Scooby-Doo, I feel like you really got to be paying attention to all the little details. Look at every card, look at the background, look at the shapes of the different items.
Don't give too many details.
I'm just saying, take it all in, and you're gonna be able to figure it out, at least better than we did, and that's all I was going to say. I do also like the component quality. I think that is a step up from Scooby-Doo. Having the cardboard standees instead of the paper ones that bend, that we'd have to slide around, I thought was just a little bit, it's a lot nicer. I really preferred that to what we had previously. And the game is fairly easy to reset, so once it's done, don't worry, you haven't marked up anything too badly. I did like the map with the dry erase marker. However, we really didn't figure out that organ portion of it, and that was rather disappointing. We kind of just skipped over the organ because we couldn't quite figure it out. But this is Goonies. It's got interesting puzzles if you're into escape room games, and I think this is a good escape room game. I just think the theme elevates it, but also hinders it at the exact same time. And that's not something I ever would have expected to say from a Goonies game or any IP game in general. Generally, the theme is like really great or absolutely terrible. And this is one that it actually does both in the same box. And that's a little bit of a conundrum.
So, I'm ready to give my score.
Like I said, personally, this was not fun. I don't think I would have necessarily given this a passing grade, but if I was someone that enjoyed escape room games, I'd give this a passing grade of a 6.
So I said I'm ready to give my score, and you go ahead and give yours. Okay, keep going.
Sorry, I thought I'd change it up for once because you were talking to me. Yes, so I give it a 6. I think it's a solid escape room game. I think that if they'd done a few different elements and you could get maybe multiple endings and really expanded on the idea of the movie and not followed it to the letter, it could possibly be a 7, even be more interesting and something that every Goonies fan, especially if you can get a good group to play this game, would want to have in their collection. Instead, I think it's just a fun game. It's a good experience. You'll probably play it once and then you're going to want to pass it on to someone else.
So I'm going to say that I'm going to start off by giving my perspective. So from my enjoyment of it, as I said, you've heard all the reasons why. For me, this is a 5. That being said, from an escape room game and having seen and other friends play, and I can see certain friends enjoying this a lot, I would say that this is a 6.5 to a 7, I think, from that perspective. I think it does it well, and you heard Jason's comments regarding your remembering the details of the Goonies and whether or not you think that that's going to affect your enjoyment of this. So on that note,
I think that's fair because, I don't think a lot of your friends are as big fan of the Goonies as I am, and I think a 6.5 is something where it would probably end up. So, good score. Good job. Fist bump.
So on that note,
Goonies Never Say Die.
I'm going to remind everybody to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell to be notified when we have new content for you.
And take a look down below in the video description. You can find links from all of our social media feeds down there. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. If you'd like to see pictures of us playing the Goonies Coded Chronicles, there are plenty on those feeds. I don't feel bad sharing them because this is the movie. Just don't look too closely so that you avoid having any spoilers. Also, there's a link down there to multizone.ca, great Canadian game store. Click that link, you'll get 10% off your next purchase. A portion of that purchase will be returned to us, and you may also be able to find a copy of Goonies there, so make sure that you check them out. And then popping up in front of us are going to be links to some of our previously released videos. In front of me will be our most recent release, and in front of Julie, as we talked about it, and it works perfectly with this, take you back to our review and how to play of Scooby-Doo Escape from the Haunted Mansion, also from the Op Games. On that note, we need to
grab our drinks,
grab our best friend. I'm going to keep playing games.
I thought we were going to remind everybody to keep playing games.
Well, okay, so let's take it on the top again. We're going to remind you to keep playing games.
See, that was more in sync.
Hey, you weren't in sync with this game.
Yes, we were. We were on the same page.